Hey, this is Greg. Welcome to the channel. The worldwide energy crisis threatens to totally tank the world economy. And it's incredible to me that most people are not aware of what is going on in the world and how it could lead to contagion through the rest of the world and could actually destroy the worldwide economy. So that's what we're going to be talking about on this video. And if that's of interest to you, stay tuned because it's coming your way. Hey, so before I talk about energy, you might wonder, who the hell is this guy? Why am I listening to this guy? I spent 15 years as a senior investment banker at a major Wall Street firm, and guess what I was involved with? You got it. I was involved in the energy business, okay? I financed power plants. I did financing for both regulated and unregulated utilities. And in case you're questioning my expertise and knowledge on green energy or alternative energy, renewable energy, whatever you want to call it, I financed the largest solar energy project in the world at the time in the Mojave Desert. In addition to that, I did a very consequential geothermal project in California called the 𝐥𝐤𝐤 project, where my client purchased the remaining share of the facility from, at the time, California Energy, which was a company that was controlled by Warren Buffett. So I'm telling you all this just so you know that I'm not just some Joe off the street. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm somebody who actually has some knowledge and experience in the energy business. And while I'm not saying I know more than everyone else in the world, I do know more than the average person. And so I do think I'm qualified to speak on this subject. Okay, so with getting that off my chest, so to speak, let's talk about the purpose of this video. Now, let me start by saying Europe is in deep doo-doo. Although it's occurring in many other parts of the world, including China, which we'll talk about later in this video, the UK is experiencing nothing short of an energy and electricity crisis. Now, they have done, I don't mean to single them out, but they have done what many countries are doing, including the United States, which is why it's important for us to understand this. They very quickly and very rapidly went into renewable energy. Now, specifically, they went into wind power, and what they did was they rapidly constructed a bunch of wind generating facilities and eventually got to the point where 25% of their electric grid came from wind. Now, simultaneous with this, they shut down coal plants, they reduced the use of gas, and just became more dependent on this wind power, right? Because that's what every politician's talking about, that's what every policy person is talking about, and every climate crusader, they're all saying the same things. Oil and gas is bad, you gotta get renewables, 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 renewables. Well, this was all well and good until something happened over the summer, and that's called the wind stopped blowing. So what happens when you're 25% dependent on wind power and the wind stops blowing? You're in deep doo-doo. So what this did immediately was it set off a massive demand for natural gas. And when you have wind power or solar, when you put installed capacity into your grid of this type of energy, since it is not reliable, you have to have backup power in the form of gas or some other fuel in order to reach a reliability factor that's necessary to operate the grid. So immediately what happened is the demand for natural gas went through the roof, causing it to go from 3.36 BTU to 550 in a matter of months. Now, when you have a percentage increase in a fuel that's necessary to either heat your house or provide electricity, when it goes up that fast, that quickly, you're in deep shit. So in addition to having this massive need for natural gas, they also had to restart some of these coal facilities that they mothballed in their insane rush to install renewable energy. So I don't need to tell you, you can probably guess that starting mothballed coal facilities is extremely expensive. So between the starting up of these coal facilities and the incredible increase in the cost of natural gas, their electricity cost has gone through the roof. In addition to that, it has shut down entire industrial sectors that are dependent on natural gas to make certain manufactured products like fertilizer, like steel, like plastic. All of these things require natural gas and or a tremendous amount of power. Okay? So what's happening now in Europe is not only are the energy rates and the electricity rates going through the roof and hitting like basically everybody, but entire industries are being shut down. Now I'm going to show you the only 3 charts that you need to see to understand completely what is going on here. The first one is natural gas. And you can see on this chart, this ugly chart, that in a matter of months, starting in June, the cost of natural gas went from 3.36 a BTU, that's British thermal unit, up to like 5.5. Okay, that is an enormous increase in a very short period of time. The second graph that you need to look at is WTI. Okay, this is basically West Texas Intermediate crude oil. Take a look at this chart, what it's done recently. It's gone basically from, you know, in the $40 to $50 to $60 range, depending on what time frame you're talking about, up to now it's at 80. Okay? Again, an enormous rise in a very short period of time. And then the last one, the pièce de résistance here, is take a look at this natural gas chart. Now this is in the UK currency. You can see the enormous jump in the cost of this commodity. Now, needless to say, this is having an enormous impact on the UK economy. And I'm using this UK as an example, but you know, all the Northern European countries went into this massively. Many of the Southern European countries did too. It's like a stampede where everybody piles into the same idea at once without obviously really having the slightest idea of what they are doing. The impacts on the UK economy are massive increase in inflation, literally overnight. Electricity rates have skyrocketed beyond levels that anyone could have thought were possible just a year ago. It's disrupted many areas of the industrial sector, which vastly hurts the economy and is causing massive economic disruption. You're seeing factory closures and entire industries shutting down literally overnight. And it's brought with it a fear of what's going to happen in the winter when things get cold and people have to do things like, oh, you know, heat their house, stuff like that. You know, nothing really important. You know, heating their house, being able to run things that are run on electric, you know, electricity. I mean, it's kind of necessary. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about China. China gets about 70% of its electricity and energy from coal. Okay? Very dependent on coal. Now, even though it's hard to believe, in a similar manner to what Europe has done, to a lesser extent, but China has also bent to international pressure to reduce its dependence on coal for climate reasons, okay? All right, so what did they do? They started to massively increase their purchase of liquefied natural gas, otherwise known as LNG. Now, this initially was great for the United States because the United States is one of the largest producers of LNG, and we were selling tons of it to China. But with the effect of the charts that you saw just a moment ago, the cost of this liquefied natural gas has gone through the roof. So as a result, China is undergoing an enormous energy crisis. They have had to, in a similar manner as the UK, they've had to restart various electric generating projects that they've shut down that were coal-fired, and their growing dependence on LNG has basically caused them to have to shut down major areas in their economy. So unfortunately for us here in the United States, this situation is not going to be isolated to Europe and China. This is a worldwide problem. Basically, the rush by politicians and policymakers to embrace renewable energy has caused people to rely too much on a form of energy that does not have the reliability factor required to be baseload capacity for an electrical grid. Now, what this means is that when the wind isn't blowing, when the sun isn't shining, when you have 2 feet of snow on your solar panels, there's no electricity. And if you recall, this happened in Texas just this past winter. Now, I'm not against renewable energy. I'm not against green energy. My point is that we do not have the technology at this point in time to be rushing into this thing, becoming overly dependent upon it, and then finding out that we basically didn't know what the hell we were doing and were caught in this economic bind that could affect the entire world. Okay, so now that we're all aware of this insane confluence of events, the likes of which I certainly have never seen in my lifetime and in my years of following and being involved in the energy business, I've never seen anything like this. Even if you go back to the 70s, the gas crisis, the oil crisis, we've never seen anything like this, people. So just be aware of that. But as investors, and if you follow this channel, you know that we have been positioned since October of 2020 in the oil and gas business. This is a perfect storm, only in our favor, for the investment thesis that we've been talking about for many, many months. I think that $100 oil is almost virtually guaranteed given this situation, because what's happening is because the insane prices of natural gas, people are retrofitting electric generating facilities to burn oil, thus increasing the demand even further of oil. So you couple that with the expanding of the economy and coming out of COVID, along with this insane increase in price of natural gas, you have just demand exploding for oil across the world. I consider myself very fortunate that I saw this trend very early on. I would advise all of you to look at the integrated oil companies, basically Exxon and Chevron. I want to show you one more chart for you to look at with respect to Exxon. This shows you that Exxon has achieved a premium return on capital in excess, significantly in excess, over the rest of the industry during this last year or so period. It is my opinion that the distress in the energy market will definitely cause oil to hit $100 a barrel. I think that's virtually a certainty. And the trend for this commodity, as well as the gas, is up. The reason I like the integrated oil companies is because they are exploring for and providers to the market of both oil and gas. I think that Exxon and Chevron are the two best positioned larger companies. There certainly are smaller plays that you can look at. I don't care what you look at. You can look at anything and do your own research. I'm recommending these two. They pay excellent dividends, and I'm putting them in my retirement account in a tax-free IRA, and I'm reinvesting the dividends in a DRIP program. That combined with the capital appreciation that I believe I'm going to receive over the next couple of years is going to make my return absolutely phenomenal. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's tough news to absorb, but why not benefit from some of these decisions that were made, and hopefully people will reevaluate, and on a go-forward basis they will make more rational decisions that are not driven by ideology. Okay, so thanks again. If you got value out of this, please subscribe and like. Love to have you on board. Don't forget to hit the bell, because then you get notified when I come out with new videos, which will be coming your way very soon.